Good morning, everybody. Today is the day we talk the final book in the Witcher book series by Andrzej Sapowski. So today we will be discussing Season of Storms. So if you're interested and you've been enjoying this series, stay tuned for my thoughts on Season of Storms coming right up. Good morning, and welcome to another episode of Drew's Book Reviews. So today we are discussing book 6 or 7? Something like that. Anyway, it's the final book in the Witcher series. So we've got Season of Storms by Andrzej Sapowski is today's book. Now, I would recommend starting with The Last Wish if you haven't read this series. Just kind of give you a brief idea of what this series is about. It is about primarily our main character, Geralt of Rivia. He is a witcher, so what he is essentially this magically enhanced human. He has the ability to fight off demons and monsters and all that kind of stuff, and he basically wanders the world looking for monsters to kill for hire, of course. This is how he makes his living as a witcher. But unfortunately, witchers also have this reputation in which they're not trusted. People don't like them. They bother them. They're disturbing to individuals. There's a lot of bigotry and hatred and discrimination against witchers. And yet it is the witchers who are in effect keeping the people safe from these monsters and demons. So everybody hates the witchers until they need one. And Geralt is one of these witchers. He just happens to be the most famous of all the witchers. So this is the final book in the Witcher series as a whole. So it just kind of gives you an idea of what the Witcher is, and what the whole setting of this story basically is. It does kind of take place in a medieval world, kind of between the years 1100 and 1300 time frame type setting with respect to this. So throughout the book and the stories, of course, it's not just the Witcher magical aspect of it. There's lots of different fairy tale creatures out there that are involved in the stories and his adventures throughout the lands, essentially. We've also got sorceresses and sorcerers and witches and all that kind of good stuff. So that is essentially the setting in which we find this entire Witcher series. So this book, right from the very start, starts off with action, right from the start. We have Geralt right in the process of taking on a monster and just slaughtering the beast. Right from the get-go, out of the gate, fast-paced, action-filled the works, which is really awesome. I thought was a really great way to start this book. A really great way to start a story in general. It just kind of draws you in and gets you hooked right from the start. And that was just a really awesome way, in my opinion, to start this book. But all doesn't go well. See, the contract kind of turns around and bites him, so to speak. He finds himself, after killing this monster that he'd been hired to kill, he finds himself being arrested on trumped-up charges and held in prison, essentially. And while that's happening, his signature weapons, his swords, are stolen. And of course, as the Witcher, he needs his swords. That's kind of a part of his signature of who he is and how he does his job. How is he going to figure this out without his swords? So that, of course, becomes a big problem for him throughout the rest of the story. And this whole story is basically Geralt trying to get his swords back. And of course he wants them back. No, don't blame him. They're kind of a signature weapon. They're his go-to thing. It's kind of how he does his job, essentially. So he finds himself eventually having to align himself with this group of sorcerers who basically conspired this whole situation in order to basically blackmail him into coming on board and doing their bidding. But he finds he's got no other choice. He's been backed into a corner and he needs to get his signature weapons back. So that is basically the gist of the story. His swords are stolen, he has to retrieve them, and he has to kind of do things he wouldn't normally do, and align himself with people he wouldn't normally align in an effort to retrieve these weapons of his in the end. So that's basically the gist of this story. And this, for myself, I kind of feel like this was probably one of my favorite books in the overall Witcher book series in general. You know, I really did find that I was enjoying it from start to finish, and it was just a generally good overall read. Now, one of the things I really kind of liked about this whole Witcher series as well is that it does have that medieval setting, like I said, between 1100 and 1300 as far as time period setting goes, in a world that's kind of at that point in our own history. And what's kind of nice about that as well, though, is that it's even though it kind of parallels our own world and time period at that point, the one aspect that's kind of missing from that is the religiosity of the society in which they're in. And it's not that there isn't religion at all. There's definitely reference to temples and whatnot, but it's kind of unique, I found, in terms of this type of setting and world. And that's the religion in there. It's just kind of mentioned as a side note, but a lot of the characters we're just talking about, a lot of the characters we see within this book, they often speak from a more scientific, secular-minded viewpoint. There's everything from evolution to genetic modifications and manipulation, to, you know, the planets going around the sun, things like that. Things that just generally that weren't thought of in that time period from our current understanding. So there really was that more of a secular scientific viewpoint within this whole world that had been created by Andrzej Sapowski within the characters, where religion is just kind of this minor thing on the side, but not a huge role within the characters. I really kind of enjoyed that aspect of it, because I really did like that idea. I'm definitely enjoy a medieval world that isn't focused on religion as a key or big vital component of the culture and society in which it's built around. So that for me is really awesome. I really enjoyed that aspect of the whole series as a whole, and definitely this is a series worth reading. 100% it is. I wouldn't peg it at my top series, not by a long shot. Definitely would not consider it the best fantasy series at all, but it is by far not the worst. And just overall, it was really enjoyable. Now, some things that kind of disappointed me with this particular book, this particular volume of The Witcher. Few things. One of my favorite characters from this series is Ciri of Sintra, so Princess Cirilla. She's basically made an appearance in pretty much every book preceding this one, but she wasn't in this one at all, anywhere. I don't know where she was or what she was up to, but she played absolutely no role. She was mentioned once in the entire book. Kind of disappointed in that, because honestly, I like Ciri. I would have loved to have her involved in this story somehow, but she just wasn't there, so I was kind of disappointed in that respect, because, like I said, she's one of my favorite characters from this whole series, so it's unfortunate she wasn't in there. And one of the other things that kind of made me go, what? And this is towards the end of the book, we have a scene where this massive storm comes in and basically destroys a town. Massive waves, just hugely destructive. Now, there were some mention of the storms coming within the book, but ultimately it almost still felt like this storm came out of nowhere. Just poof, it was there, poof, it was gone as quickly as it came. The storm throughout the timeline of the book really didn't seem to last very long. It almost felt like it was only there for a couple of minutes. There just really wasn't a lot in the way of how the storm was written into the book to make it feel like that this storm was something that had lasted in any significant amount of time. So it just kind of came and gone, and then it was over. It almost didn't seem like there was a point to that scene even being in the book at all. I think that it could have been easily removed or taken out of the book without affecting the overall plot and story of this book itself. So that aspect of it just seemed pointless to me. And, you know, good storm's awesome. I mean, there are lots of stories with a good storm involved. But this, it was like two pages, maybe 3 pages. That's it. And it just really felt like it was rushed through to the end. and where I felt like it should have lasted much longer. Not the scene, but there should have been some indication that the storm wasn't gone within a few minutes of it showing up. And it just really fell flat or out of place for me in the way it was presented within the book. And again, not really part of the overall story. At least I didn't think so. Maybe you thought differently. I don't know if you've read it. But anyway, those are just some of my thoughts here on Season of Storms. So definitely go check out the Witcher series as a whole. I gave this one about 3.8 out of 5 stars. Of course, rounded up to 4 stars on Goodreads. But overall, those were my thoughts on Season of Storms and in general Witcher as a whole. Hey, it's Drew here, just cutting in last minute. I forgot to mention, one of the things I love about Geralt of Rivia and a Witcher character in general is that he is a Witcher with morals. Essentially, he won't kill what he deems the innocent. And I love that about him. It's one of my favorite aspects of him as a character. Because sometimes people will try to hire him to do things that are a little immoral, or they'll try to hire him to do killing off of those who are in fact victims of monsters or whatever the case may be. So things that he feels are not necessarily need to be killed, but there's a way to fix it, cure them. So he'll find the solution to the problem rather than just going around and killing them because he's been hired to do so. So that's kind of one of the things I really like about The Witcher. He stays out of politics and will not kill those who he feels are actually innocent, or there's some kind of cure to make them better so that they will be safe for the rest of society in the end. I just wanted to quickly cut in and mention that because I almost forgot. Now, I, of course, will try to remember and do my best to get the links to the Witcher book series playlist or Andrzej Sapowski playlist in the description below. Might not add that in right away, but I will get to it, I hope I remember. Anyway, those are just some of my thoughts on Season of Storms. This has been another episode of Drew's Book Reviews. I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe down below if you are enjoying my videos. And I will see you next time on the next episode of Drew's Book Reviews. And until then, keep on reading. Bye!